record. So I want to thank you again, of course, for your time today. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the My Vision of Life website, which we built specifically for clients. And what I want to do at the beginning is just do a review of the mechanics. The mechanics are fairly straightforward, nothing overly challenging about it. So what I'm going to do actually to start is just remind you about the uh, retirement planning questionnaire. So this is the simplest thing you can do with clients. Remember, of course, that we can brand these for you, put in a logo, business card, make sure that your corporate colors are entered. You can either send this out to a client if you think that the client will complete the form. You could pre-complete part of it, their name, date of birth, things like that. Save the PDF questionnaire in the client's name. You don't want to be saving their a specific client's data in your generic questionnaire that you want to send everybody. So you would save it in the client's name, send it out to them, and then they can complete the rest. Or because nobody likes to complete questionnaires, I talk about, just getting on a webinar. Everybody's quite used to them now, and going through and completing it with the client. Ultimately, what happens, of course, is that you click the submit button, or the client clicks the submit button. Even if you're doing this with clients, you still need to click submit. Passwords can be entered. I frankly don't think they're necessary because the kind of data file we're creating here is very specific to the form. Nobody can intercept a data file and open it. The data file can only be opened into the form that created it. So if anybody did intercept the client data, they would need one of our questionnaires to open it. So I really don't think a password's necessary. But in any event, what ends up happening is the client enters your email address, or even if you're doing this with the client, you still enter your email address. You click OK, an email is created addressed to you, and a data file is attached to it. And the kind of data file is an Adobe file. It's called an FDF file. And that data file has not only the client data, but it also has an address system that instructs VisionWorks exactly what to do with the data. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run VisionWorks, and I'm going to, load that client file. So I want to take this as from the point of view of just setting up the most basic of plans as easily as we possibly can. So I'm going to click the add button. I want to start a new plan. Click import from questionnaire. We're going to start a retirement plan. As you know, my recommendation is that you put in the client's name. I like to use last name first because I could have a lot of Bills or Sues. So, Smith, Bill, Sue. And then I always recommend you put in a little code like RP to remind you that this is a retirement plan, REP that it's a retirement and estate plan, or FP that it's a financial plan. They have different functionality, and sometimes people have opened plans expecting to see the full financial plan functionality, and it's not there because all they did previously was create a simple retirement plan. So recommend the client name. And then when we click OK, you can then go and find that FDF client data file that was extracted from the questionnaire, open it up. Again, if the client used a password, you have to enter the password in order to decrypt the data. But we open everything up, the whole plan is set up, and we're ready to go. So this is the easiest way to get clients engaged in the process. The issue, of course, is, your time is at a premium. So we've got this plan set up. We've got the financials, TFSAs, RSPs, all of that got imported from the
Hey,
questionnaire. Yes? Question?
hello.
Hello?
Oh, sorry, Mike.
Okay. But what we
Uh,
want to be able to do is we want to be able to get clients more involved in creating a vision of life. And if your time is at a premium and you can't be sitting down and going through all of this with the client, then what you're able to do, and this is the whole point of my vision of life, is you're able to start off with something very basic, go to the import export page, click export to My Vision of Life. And then what you're going to do for a client is click the add button, put in their first name, last name. This is being picked up, of course, from the underlying file that we're in. Enter their email address, and then you can just give them a very temporary password. They can go in ultimately and change that. So I've already done that. I've got Bill Smith set up with his email address and password. So once I've got that done, then I just click export. And what's going to happen is this basic file is going to be exported to the My Vision of Life website. And then we're able to send clients the address, give them their login credentials, and then they can go and log in. So I'm going to go now to the My Vision of Life website. And hopefully I logged out the last time I was in. Yes, I did. So you send clients to the My Vision of Life website. They click the login button, enter their email address and password, which of course I've done previously, and then click the login button. And what you'll see is that everything is ready to go. So if I jump past this introduction and go to the About page, you can see that I've already imported Bill and Sue. That was all exported from VisionWorks. Clients can go in. If you haven't done this, they could log in on their own, but then they'd have to click the add button and go through the routine of, adding parties to the plan. Now, we've made this as simple as possible by developing a series of questions that they respond to. So the questions make it much easier for people to complete the About page. But nevertheless, doing something like completing the About page is still, very boring for people. So my recommendation is that as a minimum, you set that up and then export the file to the My Vision of Life site so that clients can, get past that. If they wish, they can do their values, which is very simple, of course, just dragging the slide bars. But you see here some instructions that give clients a bit of background about, why do the values. But the main thing really is to go to the vision page and give clients then the opportunity to amplify on their vision of life. Now, you'll notice down here that there's a help button, and it plays a short video that explains to them exactly how to do things. So in our example, we've exported that very basic retirement plan. All we have is the house, the vacation home. We've got, their vehicles in here, their general expenses, and so on. So they could start adding vacations and doing whatever else they want to do. So as an example, I'm just going to go back to the home. By the way, the website does work much more crisply when clients are using it on their own. When we're using Zoom, because we're of the Zoom resources that are required, that slows down the website. So we go back to the home, clients look over the different things they may want to have and do, click the renovation button. We want to renovate the kitchen, go in, put in the entry, and then they can quantify it. Again, the video shows them how to do this. Click the show table button, select the year. Let's say we want to do this next year, and let's say we want to do this for $100,000. Now, what the client is then able to do as they create their vision, the initial financial forecast that you see on the left is being exported from the retirement plan we did. So when they go in and create entries, what the client's able to do is click the refresh button, and that will refresh the financial forecast, and they'll get an opportunity to see the before and after impact of any changes that they make. So you can see here, we could roll over virtually any year and see the short and long-term implications on the financial forecast. What the client is then able to do is, continue on, amplify in the different areas of life about the things that they want to have and do. When they make changes, you will receive an email saying that the Smiths have actually logged on to the My Vision of Life website. So that gives you the opportunity sometime later to go back to the Smiths file, open it up, click the import button from My Vision of Life. The client list will then have your different clients who are on the site. I just have Bill Smith. So you'll be able to select a client, and rather than importing what changes they may have made into the current solution, which in this case is the initial assessment, you can create a new solution automatically. So I'm going to just call this one, client changes. And when I click the import button, what's going to happen is I'm going to get a message that tells me exactly what it is that the client did. I'll click close, and then everything is imported. And now when I go to the home, I can go and see there's the kitchen renovation, $100,000, 2022. So the idea is, if we have a limited amount of time, what we want to do is give the client the opportunity to amplify on their wants in life. Why are we doing this? Well, the client's areas of expertise are their values and the things they want to have and do in life. Our area of expertise is all of the financial planning tactics that we can employ to help get them from where they are to where they want to be. So that's sort of the why of doing it, in a very surface point of view. But I'd also suggest to you that the why of doing this and getting the client more engaged in talking about the specific things they want to have and do is really based on three main things. The first is that a vision of life that's based on specific wants is much more motivating to clients than something which is just general expenses. I want to retire with $60,000 of income or $100,000 or whatever it may be. Literally, when a plan is based on that, the client is thinking in terms of, let's say, $100,000. In other words, 100,000. There is absolutely no emotional engagement in a plan that distills everything down to a number. What we want to do is we want to help clients build a vision of life of specific wants. So the example that I always like to use is winter vacations. When I say winter vacations, for an instant, you have a mental image that flashes through your brain as to what that might mean to you, whether it's going to Hawaii, going to Cuba, going skiing, whatever it might be. You actually have a mental image of what that is. And with that mental image, there's an emotion. The area of the brain that constructs the mental images is tightly linked to the area of the brain responsible for our emotions. So when you think of something that you want to do, child's wedding, you'll have an emotional response. And what's really interesting is that the brain can't tell time. So if I say a child's wedding and you're talking about a child who's 5 years old, you'll have a mental image of the wedding and you'll experience an emotional response to the same degree as a client who's 25 years old, and that wedding may be, much sooner. So by talking in terms of specific images, we're engaging the clients emotionally in the plan. And my book, chapter 5 is devoted to all of that. So, I suggest maybe you might want to go back and review that as far as the reasons we really want to get people thinking in terms of their specific wants in life. The second reason that I think this is so important is that what's happening in our industry today is planning is being distilled down to retirement planning. It serves the financial institutions, saving, selling products, earning a return on it, and so on. But when people sit around the dinner table, I doubt very much that they sit around and say, do you think we have the right asset allocation in our portfolios in order to be able to have the $60,000 or $100,000 of income that we talked about in retirement? I just don't think that happens. I think people sit around the dinner table and they talk about the kitchen renovation, whether they'll do it or not, how much can they afford to spend on it, and so on. So I call that the dinner table conversation. There was a great term coined by Dan Richards, and the term he used was the client 99. What do clients think about 99% of the time? And it's the things that represent their wants in life that they're trying to make decisions about. Well, to the degree that we help flesh out these pictures of life, the things they want to have and do, then obviously we can add them to the plan, check the financial forecast, see the long-term implications, and help clients make the most informed decisions possible. So rather than one day, someday, retirement that we're planning for, by helping clients make informed current decisions, we're making the planning process much more relevant in their lives. And then related to all of that is a very simple fact that there is no such thing as the plan. And that sometimes sounds strange coming from me, where most of my life has been devoted to planning software. But the reality of life is that for all of us, we're subject to change. And that may be change in our wants. It may be change because of changes in the world around us. Certainly the last year has demonstrated that. So ultimately, there is no the plan. What there is are our wants at this point in time and our financial circumstances in helping clients get on track at this moment in time to be able to achieve those wants. But we know for certain that as time passes, wants will change. So again, coming back to that whole point about the client 99, ultimately the true purpose of planning is not to create the plan that we're going to live our life by, but rather create a decision-making model so that as we face new choices in life, we can help clients by creating what if scenarios, adding what they're thinking of doing, seeing what the financial implications are, and again, making the most informed decisions possible. So the point of planning ultimately really is to help clients master change. And if we can show clients that that's really what we're able to help them with, that's how we can position ourselves in their minds as their irreplaceable financial guide. But it comes down to, in my opinion, making plans much more relevant, and plans that are just about, I want $100,000 of income in retirement one day, someday, just don't engage people, at any great depth. It's thank you very much. I've had the plan done. They're often called actually one and done plans. Had the plan done, walk out of the office, and that's it. And I never think about it, rather than making it an instrument that, is very central to helping them really master change in their lives. So those are the things that I wanted to cover today. And what I'd like to do is just throw it open to questions. So if anybody has any questions, please unmute yourselves and then ask whatever's on your mind.
Michael, it's Colin.
Yes.
How are you?
Yes, Colin. Well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry about that brief interruption when I was answering the phone.
No problem.
My question for you, this all looks pretty cool, but I know the learning curve I went through, and I know the learning curve other advisor friends that you and I have talked about that have tried the software went through. Are you finding clients are actually able to do this on their own?
I think you'll find that a lot of the learning that you go through is more because of the world we live in and its complexity. So what the video basically shows is, to create an asset, drag and drop the house onto the tree view, to add an entry to it,
Yeah.
click the renovation button. So it shows how to create the entries pretty simply. So keep in mind, we're focusing just on the home, lifestyle, family, and career entries. And also keep in mind, if we look at home, there's nothing in here about property taxes, operating expenses, appreciation rate, or any of those other things. These
Right.
are the entries that are just related to wants. So the basic entries come down to three types, and the video shows how to do this. Static entries. Static entries are just put in the purchase date, put in the current value, put in the dollar amount, just type in the field. What I call discrete entries, which are vertical bars. I want to do the kitchen renovation whenever. And we've added some functionality actually to make things easier. So the video shows you can drag that around, but it also says you can open the table, click on the year, select a different year, change the amount. So it's pretty straightforward to do those kinds of entries. And then the third type of entry is the ongoing entry. And the ongoing entry would be something like, winter vacations.
Right.
And again, it says, click on the year. Maybe you're not starting that this year for obvious reasons. It's next year. Make it 2022, change it to $5,000. And when you retire and you have more time, click on the graph and change it to $10,000.
Right.
Right? So we've made this, I think, pretty easy to follow. And we've added, functions like being able to open the year list and select a different year, or I could open the year list here, for example, and say, we'll make that a different year as far as the end year is concerned. Okay, so I think we've made it, a lot more friendly and consumer friendly.
Okay.
Okay. And again, we're just looking at basically those three kinds of entries: the static entry, the date and the amount field, the vertical bar entry, and then the ongoing entry. We're not into RRSPs and unused contribution room and all the rest of that stuff we have to deal with in life, right? Anything that's related to people's wants is really fairly straightforward. It's all the financial stuff that gets complex.
Yeah, it's interesting. I sent the questionnaire to a client for the assessment, and they failed miserably on filling out the questionnaire.
Yeah, well, that's no surprise to me. I
Yeah.
don't think most people like to fill in questionnaires. And when I do the training on the questionnaires, I always say, send it out maybe to younger people. Maybe they'll be, a little embrace filling in a questionnaire a little more easily. But I say it, and it's not just because of competency, but I also say it's nobody likes doing that stuff. So
Yeah, they barely put their names, much more than their names and addresses.
yeah, exactly. Well, if you look at today's world, I was doing a coaching call, a demo call of the software yesterday, and the person who was looking at it said the world is so different today. He asked me about working, more interactively with clients, and he said the world is so different today. A year and a half ago, Zoom was a foreign word. And today, everybody's completely familiar with it. Dan Sullivan, has a new book, and I forget what it's called, but it's something about, zooming your business. It's like Kleenex. It's not facial tissue, the generic name. Everybody says I need a Kleenex, right? It's the brand name. Same thing with Zoom.
Yeah.
But the world, everybody's become so used to it. I think it would be very simple to get on a call, bring up the questionnaire, have pre-completed names and dates of birth and so on, and say, how much income, roughly do you think you'll need in retirement? Boom, 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 boom. What do you need when you want to retire? It wouldn't take very long to go through it. And, and then it's done and away you go. Or even if you have the ability, even give that job to an assistant who could do it.
Yeah. Well, I was actually just working on a plan this morning with a client on Zoom. So
right.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. Grant, you had a question?
Yes. Hi, Michael.
Yes, hi.
Wondering if the video, in terms of introducing this to clients, if the video can be sort of linked to them as an introduction to even start with. Is it? I haven't watched the video, but does it sort of just show them how to be successful with this? And
yeah, the video is much more just instructional.
Okay.
On how to, quantify entries and so on. I mean, you could have a look at it and decide whether or not it might suit you, but I'm not sure about that.
Okay. And do you suggest, in terms of best practices, that clients, we introduce this and invite clients to start dreaming and visioning prior to us getting together with them for the visioning meeting?
The point is that if you do the visioning work with them, that's going to take your time. If you were to introduce this to people, and remember, you want to set up the plan first. So I suggest even if it's the minimal retirement plan that you export to the site, so that there are some financials in the background so they can make choices and see what the effect is. That's kind of the cool thing that people want to know about. If I spend more on vacations, what's that? What difference will that make? So you want to export, a reasonable amount of the financials. But whether you just say, here's the site, let me show you how it works, go to it, or whether you do some of the visioning with them and say, if you want to go to the site and think more about the things you want to have them do, pad it up a little, that's up to you, right? I don't know.
Do you think it's more appropriate for okay, great, we go through it together as a guided exercise, and then we invite them to come back and
play a little more
upon reflection and play some more, and
I think
fine tune it.
Yeah, why not, right? The idea is the more we get them thinking about what they want to have them do, the more we get them in in specific terms that cause emotional responses, the more engaged they're going to get in the planning process. And I think ultimately the greater the value that they're going to get.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Michael.
Life is about values-based lifestyle trade-offs, right? Decision making. If I do this, if I do that, well, that's more important to me. So if I really want to do that, what do I have to do over here, to free up some cash to be able to do the other thing, right? It's all back and forth. Gives them a chance to think about, what's most important to them. And I don't think that that's the sort of thing necessarily in a first meeting that's just going to jump to mind, right? I don't know about you, but most of the time I find that I make better decisions after I've slept on things.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Michael.
Anybody else? The only comment I can make is I don't think very many advisors are actually using this, and we put in a lot of work. I very much believe in the whole interactive, get clients engaged in their vision. But I do know that a few clients who have introduced a few of our clients that have introduced their clients to the site has said this is exactly what people wanted. They've said to the advisor, this is fantastic. It's what I've always wanted to be able to do, play with my vision. That's the dinner table conversation. That's the client 99. That's what people think about. They don't think about the stuff what Richard says is, the client 99 is what the client thinks about 99% of the time. And what we do in our business is we try and minimize that. How much income do you want in retirement? Great. Now let's start talking about portfolio allocations. We try and we minimize the time we spend on the client's conversation, what they think about, and we maximize the amount of time we spend on the things we think about. And so Richard's whole point was, the doorway to the client is 99 times bigger if what you do first is, spend time on the things that they think about. And that's exactly what this is. So when people say, this is what I've always wanted to do, it's because they've never had the opportunity to do it. Plans are distilled to how much income do you want in retirement. So as soon as they see the opportunity to do this, then that's, they say, that's what I've always wanted to do. That's what planning should be about. Let me make some changes. Let me see the impact on the long term. So, the anecdotal evidence that this actually works is the feedback I get from our clients based on the feedback they get from their clients where they've actually given them the opportunity. So that's all I ever encourage anyone to do with this website, is not whether clients will use it or not, but at least expose them to it to see what they have to say about it.
I think it's great, Michael. You're right that different personalities will gravitate towards it or not, but I think it is something that I certainly want to encourage our clients, expose them to, and actually link it right into their portal so that it's something that they can see at their convenience when, it's that just in time aspect.
Yeah.
As they're thinking about it, it should be available to them. Yeah. So I apologize, this is my own ignorance of the resources that you have for us, but presumably I can go to the website and find some training for me.
Yes.
In terms of my using this.
Yes. Great.
If
we go to the Vision Systems site, and I am logged in, so I can go to support. And keep in mind the table of contents. So here's the table of contents, and then you can go down through it. And I don't remember where I put it, so we'll have to have a look. I thought it was, there it is. So there's a whole piece on the MyVisionOfLife site with a video that explains it. And this is a video meant for you so that you can see how the site works. This is not the same as the video on the site that shows the client how to create and quantify entries, right? And then this is a PDF file that goes through exactly what I showed you today, how to import a file from MyVisionOfLife into VisionWorks. I always recommend you start by exporting so that the client doesn't have to do all that about stuff, and then how you import from there. There is also a feature, by the way, that if the client were to stumble across this, not a client, but if retail investor were to stumble across our website, then and they wanted to hook up with an advisor, then for them, they wouldn't have an advisor's email address, and there would actually be a map where they could locate you.
It would be kind of cool, Michael, to have here I am suggesting to-do list for you. I'm sure your to-do list is already long enough, but it would be kind of cool to have a little mini video that was for client eyes.
Well, have a look at
that we could use for marketing.
Yeah, have a look at the one that's for you, and then see if it's the sort of thing that we might be able to, play with a little bit to clientize it.
Okay, thanks, Michael.
Okay. Anybody else with any questions? If not, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks, Michael.
Yep, pleasure as always. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, Michael.
Good weekend, Michael.
Yep, bye.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.